Good afternoon, everybody. This is the Thursday, June 26th ELHS School Building Committee meeting. It's a virtual meeting. Thank you all for attending. Um, First line of business, unfortunately, I probably should say that first. Mr. Crucial, our chair, could not be here this afternoon, so I'm stepping in just to run the meeting. And our first order of business, if everybody was able to find the agenda in the calendar invitation, is to take a look and approve the meeting minutes from May 22nd, 2025. Was everybody able to find those?
Yep.
I'll take that silence. Thank you, Mr. Quimby, as a yes. Uh, any motions to approve? Mr. Quimby's waiting to second this.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Christensen.
Nice.
And Mr. Quimby seconded it. Any further discussion? Okay. I'm going to do a roll call vote, given that we're virtual. So we'll start with Ms. Labar.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Okay, Mr. Page?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm a yes. Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Excellent. And Mr. Fenny?
Yes.
Found your glasses?
Yes.
Excellent. All right, Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Thank you. Did Ms. Hill join us? I didn't see her. Okay. Ms. Collins?
Yes. Sorry, yes.
Thank you. And Mr. Quimby?
I'm a yes.
You're a yes. And Mr. Christensen?
Yes.
Kathy's just joining too.
Oh, okay. All right. But I think we have enough there to approve those, so our minutes are approved. Thank you for that. We do on the agenda always have public participation, but we actually were asked if by a resident, Mr. Mark DeFranco, to address the school building committee, and hopefully everybody was able to retrieve the document, the handout that he had sent before. It's attached to the calendar invitation. And Jamie, if you wouldn't mind seeing if Mr. DeFranco's in the audience, and maybe we can bring him in.
He is. He's coming in right now.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Oh, looks like he dropped out.
I was there, but didn't know how to get in.
Oh, there he is.
There
Okay.
he is. Good afternoon, Mr. DeFranco. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Sure. I believe all of our building committee members who are present have gotten the handout that you sent earlier. Thank you for doing that. If you want to walk us through the proposal here, we'd appreciate that.
Actually, what I wanted to do, first of all, thank you for allowing me to speak before the building committee and all of you. I really appreciate that. And I know I have limited time. I'd like to be able to read what I have to say.
Sure.
And I don't want to get into that whole thing because we can't do it in 10 minutes, maybe in the future. But if you allow me to read what I have to say and just stick with me, I'm not a good speaker, but try to hang with me here. Anyway, my name is Mark DeFranco. I've been a coach, volunteer, contributor, tournament organizer, and including the East Long Meadow Bob and Tranghese tournament for 15 years and the Western Mass Baseball High School Fall Baseball League for 20 years. And I'm a member of the East Long Meadow Baseball Association for 32 years. I have lived the town of East Long Meadow baseball history inside and out. As many of you know, I've been the catalyst for involving many others to upgrade and better the town's facilities over the years. In doing so, I've been recognized by and introduced to the Western Mass Baseball Hall of Fame, and most recently by the Western Massachusetts Baseball Umpires Association as a recipient of the Lanzillo Award. Now, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here. I just want you all to understand I'm not some crazed parent. I'm here for a reason. I'm not here representing myself. I represent the East Long Meadow Baseball Association, the East Long Meadow High School coaches, two of whom are my sons, and many other interested parties. I was asked by Kevin McGee to be a point person to advocate for the baseball and softball programs for these fields. hopefully, you know, you have in front of you the turf field campaign proposal and we received some interest from the Community Preservation Committee and other stakeholders. This discusses the objectives, benefits, and potential community impact of synthetic fields, which I'm sure many of you already understand. Like I said, I don't want to get into that now, but just that you have it in front of you. You're responsible for a tight $168 million budget to build a new high school. We are not looking for a handout, but a way we can contribute to take advantage of this once in a lifetime opportunity to benefit the entire town, and not just the high school baseball and softball teams. When I say the entire town, I want to give an example of turf field versatility. Turf fields have the ability to adapt to all age groups because of the movable pitching mounds. You can go 60 foot, 45 foot, 43 foot to them. You can't do that in a regular field, but you can on a turf field. So it adapts to all ages. Also, the right field line and left field line, along with the warning tracks, you can put bases up there, and T-ball and Pinto kids can also get used to this field. 2 games going on at once. This includes over 400 kids in the youth program that this field can adapt and potentially be used by all of them. So it's not just the high school we're talking about the whole town. Now we're looking for your help in finding a way to make this happen within the bounds of all our creativity, not just a cash infusion or cost savings by maneuvering the budget. I want to know what else we can do, and what we want to do is talk about all your brain power. What else can be done to make something happen? And if I could just give you an example of what we've done in the past and how things were successful. I know I'm running short on time, but years ago, we wanted batting cages in the town, right? We had limited use of fields, and we figured we get a batting cage, you know, team can hit for an hour, play in the field for an hour, we get more teams to practice that way. But we found out it cost $30,000 to build a cage. What we ended up doing is we purchased the Glastonbury commercial batting cages, Glastonbury, Connecticut, their golf facility and their snack bar. We got a large contingent of volunteers to clean out the facility for a bank which owned it. And we ended up with a batting cage, creating our own snack bar in the center of town, the center field, which was a profit center, and enough netting to recondition batting tunnels and safety netting. So we got what we wanted. The good thing is we also ended up with some coin-operated pitching machines, which we knew what to do with. We sold those for the same amount of money we bought the batting cages for, plus they gave us 2 pitching machines, one for the softball team, one for the team. And then we got some lights for the tennis courts and a bunch of stuff that we gave to Fenway, but we did really well. And what it was creativity, hard work by a lot of people that wanted to get things done. I'm using that as an example because I think we can do that ourselves. We all have a thought, there's some process, something we can do to hopefully make this happen in this tight budget. So that's all I'm here to do is say, this is what our thoughts are. This is what we want to do. There are people working in the background. I have a whole contingent of people that all want to come in and barge and yell at you why we should have it. You know why we should have it. But I'm just saying, let's think about it. Let's see how we can do it. David Fontaine's been great with us. I guess he's been getting some costs and all that. And he hasn't shared it with me, but I think he shared it with some of you. And, you know, when you look at the numbers, you're going to say, oh boy, we had all this stuff. It's, you know, oh, there's no way we can do this. But if we can go out and get a lot of funds to chip in, and we've got a significant amount of money already potentially allocated for this and more, we can get things going. And then, you know, there's also maneuvering of funds within the organization now. If we can get these funds to build the basis of the fields, well, the funds that we have for doing fields, we can buy the turf with. And anyways, I'm talking too much. I only have 10 minutes. I just wanted to get our point across. If you have any questions or thoughts for me, I just appreciate the opportunity to get in front of you and tell you what many of us are wishing and hoping to do.
And we certainly appreciate not only all your past efforts, which have been phenomenal, but certainly presenting today. Before I open it up to committee members for questions, one thing I do want you to know is that the committee actually, probably over a year ago, when we were looking to submit final documents and budget presentations to the Mass School Building Authority, did wrestle with doing at least the varsity baseball field and the varsity softball field in turf. And at that point, we're not able to see how we could stay under budget and move forward with that. That was at that time, about a year and some months ago. I can't speak to, but we do have members of the design team. We may have Dave Fontaine on here. I don't know if I saw him come on or not, who could probably speak to how any kind of change at this point might be encountered in the MSBA process, because we have a set budget and a set budget agreement with them. And all our design work right now is based on grass fields and drainage from grass fields and so forth. But before maybe we go there, if there are other questions from committee members, please just raise your hand or signal or, unmute and let me know. But wanted to thank you for not only the proposal, but all your effort in this endeavor, but also past endeavors, and you continue to support ELPS in so many different ways. So thank you for that. Are there questions from committee members? I can't see everybody on my screen, so if you want to unmute and pose a question. Mr. Page, did I see you unmute? Nope.
I did, but I don't have the question at this point. Yeah, I don't. But good to see you, Mark. Been a while, my man.
You too, Frank. I see you.
Is there
Hey, Mark.
anybody?
Mark, it's Greg Thompson.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I agree with you on the value of this field or the fields. As Gordon mentioned, we certainly looked at it. I think the cost at this point, it still does not fit in our budget. As we spoke before, if that money was able to be raised and donated in a timely manner, then we could consider it. But I think timing might be an issue right now. I don't know, Ben, are you out there? You might want to talk about that.
Yeah, if I could, Greg, thanks. Yeah, piggyback on that. And Mr. DeFranco, hi, I'm Ben Murphy with Skanska. Thank you for your commitment to baseball in East Long Meadow. You probably don't remember me, but I actually played against your sons once upon a time, and I always appreciated your involvement and how important it was to you. So I'm with Skanska. We're the owner's project manager for the town of East Long Meadow. And I think Greg raises an interesting point here. I think this is something, and I'll defer to the design team to the specifics after this, but there is a lot. This schedule is of the utmost importance, bringing this school, delivering this school for the town by the substantial completion date that is in our contract. I would imagine that doing something like this would have a significant effect on the design for those ball fields. The drainage, the grading, the sub base is different between grass and turf, as I'm sure you know. So I do, that concerns me just from where we are at this stage in our process and what we would have to do in order to make something like this happen with only a year to complete the building and then this site work after that. So yeah, Greg, schedule is a concern of mine for sure. And then I was going to say, I was reading through the proposal and I did notice, and is Dave Fontaine on? I can't really see the full participant list here, or Danielle. I'm not seeing.
I don't see Danielle.
Danielle's-
I'm here.
Okay. Danielle, you are okay. So I just wanted to, and I know we don't have full baked costs on this or scope or anything like that, but Mr. DeFranco alluded to some rough numbers that were out there. And my only concern was in seeing some of the the information in Mr. DeFranco's proposal. The numbers that I saw were there was a great variance, if you will. So I just, yeah, Danielle, I don't know if you're prepared to speak to that or if we get into that today, but those were my concerns.
Well, I did share an estimate, and it is an estimate for the value of doing turf at the baseball and the softball fields. The way we looked at it was to keep the footprint of the fields the same, but it does add, turf field gets a significant amount of drainage, and that drainage gets deep. And so we have to remove the soil, the material that's already there, replace it with well draining material. We have to put drainage underneath it. We have to tie that drainage back to structures that are already, have already.
I think she froze.
until we get her back, can I just address a couple things?
Sure.
I contacted Dave quite a while ago, told him what our thoughts were, asked him, what do you think the number's going to be? He threw a number out. I think he was just talking about the baseball field itself. And we had talked about the 2 baseball fields, or maybe 3 baseball fields, plus, another practice area, a big piece of carpet. So we've gone back and forth with a lot of different things, but the $700,000 number was something that he threw out when we were discussing something. I went after the $700,000 just because that was what I thought the number was. And I'm pretty much feel we're going to get that. I also think we can get more. I don't know what the numbers are. Just give me an opportunity to say, okay, what's the difference? And David also mentioned that there's money allocated to certain things. If we pay for other things to be done, those money that was allocated to do the dig out or the moving of the dirt, maybe it can be rearranged and allocated elsewhere. So, how do we finagle this to make sure there's enough money and enough whatever to get everything done? Again, if you go to turf fields, there are some savings from the grass fields, which could be allocated towards that, and vice versa. So, people don't want to deal with it because it's along the way, but understand the last thing that's going to get done are the baseball fields, because we're told we're not going to be able to play baseball there for another 2-3 years. Baseball teams don't have a field. Synthetic field will get it a lot quicker. I also think that the long term, that's the one thing. I know what it's like trying to get fields done in this town. You got to rake them. We get the DPW is phenomenal for what they have available and what they do. But there's been a lot of stuff throughout the years that's been done by the people and everybody else. And that's why I think baseball's down a little bit. It's too much of a commitment for a parent to do everything. These synthetic fields are always playable, always ready to go. They're always lined. Boom, boom, boom. When it rains out, you can still play on them. You don't get the cost savings in the long run is just tremendous. And that's kind of, within that other program. So it's not that, do we really want to take the time and finagle and get this done now? What about the next 10 years of the finagling and everything we're doing now to try and keep the existing fields we have up and running? This can make a huge difference if you really look into it. And I know, you guys have dealt with a tremendous $168 million, the craziness. You got pools and you got tennis courts and you got it. I understand that. We're talking about a baseball field that is the last thing we're going to do. What can we do to try and finagle and get that taken care of? And it's so good for the whole town and for the organization and for pricing and things we've got to do in the future. It just really, I know you've had enough of all this. Let's just get this done with. But if we could just, the squeaky wheel, how does it work? If we could just really concentrate and figure out how we can do it. And there's some smart people in this group that'll come up with a thought, an idea, or whatever. And if the cash is the thing, at least allow us to go out and get the cash. Tell us what it is, how much we need. And if that's what we need, we don't have, let's fit the budget, and then let's let the smart people finagle and make it work.
And thank you for that. I'm not sure that it's just the cash, because and maybe the design team can speak to this more. I think it's design work that's already been submitted to the Mass School Building Authority. Its schedule and its how it may impact our funding agreement with the MSBA. I don't have those answers, so I don't know if anybody on the design side is prepared to answer any of those, or whether that's something we look into for the future.
I'm happy to give a little bit of commentary on this. So, Mr. DeFranco, my name's Dory Brooks. I'm the principal in charge of design for the project. It's a collaboration of 2 firms, Jones Whitsitt Architects and SMA Architects. And we were asked to take a look at this. We were not asked to look at it in terms of a schedule. And I think schedule is, in my mind, the largest concern, simply because sequentially work has to happen in a certain flow. So if it's marching along in a certain flow this way and it has to change, at what point is it impossible to make that change? That's a question I don't yet have an answer to. I think if there's serious legs behind the idea, the design team and the construction management would need to spend some time really investigating that to figure out where's the date at which you can't change gears, you can't improvise, on the fly and revise, because there is a point at which it becomes unpredictably chaotic to change. But I don't know that that date is now. So maybe there's a window. The thing that strikes me as most complicated is there is a date at which that has to be firm, and I don't know what the fundraising capacity is to meet, by that date. And if there were such a way that, you had some external way of borrowing and then fundraising, then maybe that wouldn't be a concern, but probably that's not that easy to do. So I think our concern largely had to do with that. We were asked to explore what this means as a design change a little bit, just in terms of what it would mean is if the committee chose to pursue this, they would have to commit to the design team doing revised documents. That couldn't wait for fundraising. That would have to happen because the documents have to be there and you have to line up the work. So the design work has to happen, and it would be in ad services. And we did bring in a turf expert that we're working with on another project who is really knowledgeable. And I think as a team, we felt okay about the challenge of, as Danielle said, working within the footprint of the baseball and softball fields. And I do want to say that it's, I think, more realistic to at least not go to what you and Dave talked about in terms of thinking about 3 fields. I think even the 2 fields, from my understanding, is more expensive than the 700 that he threw out. And
Yeah.
Danielle hopefully will jump in. So let's just not even go to the 3. Think about the 2. Even then, probably the number's higher. So there's some conversation to be had there. But working on those fields, we would do design services. We would keep all the work located at those locations. And that's the proposal we're looking at. So we're willing as a design team to do the work if the committee had the funds to support doing the work. And if it was determined that that this is feasible such that decisions can be made in a timely way. Schedule, as I say, is that issue, because you can't, and this is separate from the question of the MSBA and third-party funding. The MSBA does accept third-party funding now, but it's a project that the contract is already in place with the agreement with the MSBA. So how it would be Scance's job to go to the MSBA and try and figure out if there's any way to alter that without penalty. And that's again a separate issue. And then that issue of coming back to how do you set a date that you can guarantee that you're going to have the funding in place and that you're going to guarantee that you're not going to negatively impact the completion of the project or the scope of work that's, again, already been bought out, right? Because you have contractors who have already paid, sort of accepted contracts to do this scope of work already in front of them. So you're going to have to go back to them and set up a quite costly change order, which is part of why the numbers are probably not, because you're asking them, they're in a very powerful position in exploring how you're going to change those contracts now. So those are some of the things that from a design team I would raise as thoughts, but I do think that you have the expertise in the team to support the committee's decision. Should we be able to get past these quite, complicated questions?
I do understand a lot of that. I'm sorry, I had some other thoughts in my head, but then I forgot them because I didn't interrupt you. But I think we're not talking about the bricks and mortar here of the school. I think the last thing that's going to be done is the baseball fields, the turf fields. I mean, because the high school team, which is losing, 2 fields and it's out there, they're told it's going to be another 2 years or 3 years before they get out and play on this thing. So my guess is it's not the thing that's going to be done now. My guess it's going to be one of the last things that needs to be done. I also believe that there are some plans floating around out there that somebody looked into building these fields, the turf fields. There were dimensions and things like that. I spoke with Kevin McGee about that.
Right.
And there were a couple little issues here and there, but little issues, no problem. So what I don't want to do is say, oh, there's a big burden here. What I want to say is, geez, can we really buckle down? Let's really figure this thing out. Maybe there's some design work that's already done that can be kind of fit in here. And yeah, let's cut it down to 2 fields or 1 field or whatever. I mean, the softball field's always had some places to play. They got Birchland and all that. But I'm saying, well, if the boys are getting it, the girls should get it too. So that's why I'd really like to see.
And we feel strongly about that as well, as a matter of Title IX, as you pointed out. And that's the case in other districts, that we hold very strongly that we would be putting you in a bad position if we supported the notion of baseball and not softball because that's essentially a liability to the district. So
But those fields, that one field can be so versatile and be so, when I've taken teams out to tournaments and then states and all that stuff, they play on one field for the whole week. They got all these teams and you get a lot of use out of it. But if it rains and there's an issue and it's got to be cleaned and you got a turf field, it's just beautiful. It's going to be so helpful. And it's really not fair to our baseball team that they've got to wait 3 years before they can get back out and play on their own home field. So if we could, that's got some value too. That's some things we got to think about besides the money and the aggravation.
Mhm.
They got to travel to Long Meadow and play in those crap fields, or maybe they can go to Forest Park and whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, let's get the motivation. Let's think about it. What can we do? Is there stuff around? If it's money, well, we can do the money. Tell me what the money is. That's really why I'm here. I don't know what the money is.
So,
I think, Mark, to answer that, go ahead.
Oh, Greg, yeah, if you don't mind, and Mark, I did not, I know Danielle jumped off and she had started to explain kind of where they were at with their early cost exercises. And so she explained, all the caveats, and it's a rough estimate that they came up with. But they did provide us with that rough estimate, which was aimed at, adding turf to the varsity baseball and softball fields. It also accounted for what we would expect for credits for what was owned under the original scope for the seeded area and the irrigation, things of that nature. The number that was provided to us was $1,987,895 on that rough estimate. And so that was just more, I agree with all the merits of 100% with what you're saying, but the cost perspective of this is, and I know it's not what we want to talk about, but I think it's an important one for this committee, because if the thought is that 700 or so of that is coming from CPA.
But by the way, that 700 number I said just came from, because when I talked to David months and months ago, it's a number he threw out without thinking. So that's why that's the number I went after.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a matter of not all of us not knowing exactly what this scope would be and trying to come up with it and not having the crystal ball. So I totally understood with that. So I probably share this with you, but I just wanted to put that out there just because, if this is a possibility or something that we need to account for, then if it is the project funds that would be making up the delta between whatever donations or fundraising can happen, my concern is just that sheer that magnitude of that number, because that would effectively come out of contingency for the project, which there is a dedicated contingency for the project, but we've already tapped into it. It's used for, everyday change orders that happen on the project. It's allocated for things that come up on the construction project, as well as things that, the owner may want to add, but this would be a big chunk of that. I don't have the contingency numbers for you right now. I think in total we had around 3.5 million, but we've been pulling from that. So I just wanted to let everybody on the committee know of that picture, because when I don't know where this all lands, what kind of fundraising, what kind of numbers we can get from that. But if the thought is that the project would be absorbing some of this cost, then I just want the committee to be aware of kind of where we're at with the contingency and be cognizant of the schedule ahead of us and the activities that are still at play. So.
Ben, it sounds like from what Dory said, that any kind of redesign work would have to be eating into contingency because
Correct.
of the project, which we haven't accounted for that piece either. So you schedule and new design work, which obviously may alter schedule.
Hey, Ben, I'm sorry, Gordon.
That's fine. That's all I had.
That 1.9, Ben, that's an additional cost. So our budget is here. It would cost
that would be
1.9 more than it does now, approximately.
Approximately, exactly. Craig, I got to caveat.
Currently, it's not in the budget.
Yeah, yep. So that number right there. So what Fontaine did was they took that and they basically credited the scope that was owned, and then they tacked on what it would be for their site contractor and other subcontractors who are involved to add the turf to the field.
And Ben, I believe
so
that design number was included in that as well.
Oh,
you know what? I'm looking at it now. Yes, Gordon. So I do need to correct you there. There was a number included in that rough estimate for design fees. So that the thought was in there at least, but.
Okay.
So that 1.9 is currently not in our budget. We have the contingency, which is left, but we potentially would need that. Dory, how long round number, how open is that window? When does that window close? It's
For the
soon, I would imagine.
contingency or for the design
Nope, to
process?
change the plan to go to turf. You talked about a window. You must
Yeah,
have a rough idea what that is. A rough.
unfortunately, I don't. That's actually a decision that would have to be made with Fontaine because Fontaine sequences the work. So
But
in
are we
terms of
talking months
design,
or years?
design
Dory,
is
it's months?
not hard. I'd have, it's like, they have to kind of look at their sequence and back up. So there's a phase of completing the school. I don't know, because I'm not a contractor, how they have to decide that. In terms of design, the amount of time it takes to design the turf field and have the documents ready, I'm not worried about. It's so that sequencing and lining up of work isn't the challenge. The actual, when does that construction have to be known and guaranteed, and the money in hand, that's the date that they have to help you determine. And I'm afraid I couldn't give you a guess on that without being wrong. Eric, I don't know if you have any weigh in, because I feel like we're the only two people who are.
Well, 3 months,
able
6
to-
months,
yeah.
9 months, a year.
Hey, Greg, this is Jamie from Fontaine. Looking at, like, we would need to have a kind of a design in hand, and not knowing the design, obviously, like, I'm kind of spitballing here, but I mean, I would say you're talking by early winter. So, November, December, like, we'd have to be releasing material to be able to get things in hand to build those fields in sequence with everything else we got going out here. So what is it?
Okay.
July almost. So you're talking
6
probably
months.
like 4 or 5 months. Yeah.
4 or 5 months. Okay. Thank you, Jamie. So,
So
I
then,
mean,
Greg,
Mark, that's
yeah.
what it comes down to, I would say, is, it's $1.9 million. We've got 4 months to look at it, but that money would all have to come externally. It's not currently in the budget. And
Well, there are a couple things. One, of the Community Preservation Committee, I talked to a lot of them, and I got a kind of hand vote. Yeah, we'll get you some money. They've got $2 million. Now, I'm not going to get it, all of it, but they have $2 million. So I think there's a way to go. And then somebody brought up a great idea. Well, maybe I could go borrow it. Maybe we could do something. I mean, that's what we did in the past. We needed a fence in the outfield. We didn't have the budget to do it. So I put it on my credit card. I put the fence up. Everyone raised money. I got my money back. It's a simple, it's something we can overcome. That's all I'm looking for. I just need to say, let's do this. Let's figure out how we're going to $1.9 million. Let's go do it. And if we know what our mission is, let's just attack it and let's figure it out. And, I got a kid that used to play baseball for me. He made a lot of money, playing Major League Baseball. I'm sure I can get him to freaking loan us some dough for a period of time, whatever.
well, so Mark, I would say this then. So we got to have a relative idea on the number. It's more than we thought, closer to 2 million. We have a deadline. It's 4 months away, 4 to 5 months. If you are able to come up with a way that we can actually fund this, that's going to be feasible. I think we would be open. As we said, we talked about funding it through the project. It's not currently funded through the existing funding, so we have to come up with something else. If you're able to do that, we're all ears on that, but I think it's a large hurdle.
Well, everything's always a large hurdle till you attack it a little bit at a time and get enough people, pushing against that big rock, and we can get it done. So yeah, I have people on my end. I'd like to do it. And just, your group, you're sitting here, you're listening. You're more involved with all this than I am. You understand the process more than I do. Maybe there's a thought, an idea that clicks on later on, and just let us know. Again, I don't have a plan of attack here. I have an end game. How do we get there? And as we go along the way, things evolve, things happen. And that's all I'm looking for, is saying, give us a chance. And if we end up with these turf fields, great. If we don't, hey, we tried. But I don't want, I just don't want to say, we got so much going on here. Let's just not even bother. What you're saying is, you're not saying that. You're saying that, hey, yeah, I think it's a good idea, but you got to go get it done. That's all. That's better than no, I don't want to listen to you. So I appreciate it.
And we appreciate you, Mark. And I don't want to discourage the project and the ideas. We all see the value in it. It just comes down to the dollars and the timing. So, I think now we have somewhat of an idea about how this could proceed if it was going to. And if you want to maybe plan to come back to us at some point.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to come back and vote to approve prime contract change order. That's next. I want to come back and get that done in the next very, very near future.
Greg, can I
Awesome.
ask you one question? Or the committee? I'm not, Gordon, I think you're chairing, so technically I'll ask you all, but it's kind of to the committee as a whole.
Sure.
Because turf fields come up on school projects a lot, and this is we talked about it previously. In some communities, it becomes a flashpoint of debate. So is it something that the committee would entertain, or is it something the committee would hesitate to entertain without a larger debate?
I think we need the funding first, Dory. Is that what you're
Right,
saying? So
Yeah, I just want to
minus
know if
funding, I
there's
don't think.
other.
Yeah, minus
Yeah.
funding, there's not much of an option, I think.
With the project of this size and a contract sort of this scrutinized and this rushed, and we'd have to see that commitment before I would vote to go this route. I'd have to see almost all those funds committed upfront.
And Tom, am I correct that there's only a percentage that community preservation can even get involved with a turf project?
Yeah. And I would be surprised if this fell into any of the categories for CPC funding.
The only thing that they can't fund is the actual cost of the turf itself.
Yeah.
Everything else they can, per their own charter. So the all the ground and the moving and all the stuff that you need to do, they can give funds towards that. They just can't give funds for the actual turf itself, is what I'm told. And then
right, which is a large percentage of that 1.9. Right. I mean,
well, I don't know.
No, Mark, I don't know. I'm not saying, I'm just saying, in order for us to make that kind of commitment for this project in 4 months, I mean, we'd have to see a very large commitment of funds to sort of quote unquote take that chance with this contract.
Sure. One other thing I'd like to say, she brought up, you should all discuss and see if everybody's into it. Every kid in that high school plays on a turf field now, or has their own swimming pool or their own new tennis courts. The only one that doesn't have a turf field is the baseball field, the softball team. So I think that point's kind of moot. No one else is going to argue, right? Every team has the ability to play on turf, their own pool, their own tennis court. So, or a new gymnasium, except the baseball team.
Dory, I got a quick question. I'm pretty sure I already know the answer to it, but is it feasible to alter the existing design for a future upgrade to turf surface?
Yeah, that I'm going to defer that over to Eric, but that was, in fact, I will tell you that on other school projects, this whole question of turf versus not happens early in design for a reason, because it is extremely difficult to retro it later. You could, I imagine, rip the entire thing out and do that, but then you're definitely, I mean, that would be much more costly than even what you might be proposing to do now. But Eric, would you?
Sure. Eric Vangsness, landscape architect with SMMA. It's a tough question. So the profile for natural turf fields and the ones that we have in the budget right now for this project are very different than a synthetic turf field. I don't have a lot of experience with designing synthetic turf baseball fields, but from my experience on, like football fields and those types, they're typically installed over multiple layers of stone with under drainage, and that's just not the type of profile you would use for any type of a natural turf field. So pretty much what you would have to do is rip out the natural turf field and the soil that the grass grows in, and you would have to install different subsurface drainage. You need a place for that subsurface drainage to go. You could do subsurface drainage now, but I don't know that it would really be at the depths necessary, at the correct depths if you compare that to a synthetic turf field. So it'd be tough to do that. And by the time you go in there and rip everything out, you're probably going to damage it. It's not going to be as simple as just, going down to that level. So I don't know that that's really feasible at this point. And when you do that work too, you're going to disturb all those other fields that we have there just for construction access and everything else to put those in later. So it'd be quite a lot of work.
That's right.
You're better off picking a direction. You're better off picking a direction now, and moving forward with it.
And the other thing to consider is, we have our turf football field now, and we've been struggling to find funds to replace that for the maintenance of it. And granted, our maintenance plan has maintained that very well, but for multiple years now, we've been trying to replace that turf field and have not been able to.
That's a good point.
If you don't mind, Gordon, I do want to just make that point, is that synthetic turf fields have their benefits, but they do require maintenance, and they're not they're not the types of fields that you install them and then you don't worry about them anymore. There is a replacement component. If you look at synthetic turf baseball and softball fields, the base paths, things of that nature, depending on how you do them. If you have a turf infield, there can be wear spots that have to be replaced from time to time, so that it's not as simple as it sounds. I mean, they do have their benefits, don't get me wrong. One other thing, I just want to echo Dory's comment earlier. We're talking a lot about baseball, but one of the aspects of this project that I think I got the sense that the community really appreciated was the fact of bringing softball from Birchland and points elsewhere in town to the high school, so that boys and girls have an opportunity to play at the high school, at the campus, at this community setting, instead of being somewhere else. So it certainly would encourage the committee to make sure whatever's done for baseball is done for softball at this site.
Thank you, Eric. At this point, it sounds like we at least have some direction. We know that we're looking at a short window of time. Mr. DeFranco, you may come back to us at some point, I think is what you had said, and we appreciate that. If there are no other questions, are there any other questions for Mr. DeFranco or for the design team on this?
I guess one question for, I think for Mr. DeFranco would be, when does Mr. DeFranco need to come back by realistically? If we're saying that the design, everything would need to be in hand in 4 to 5 months, just to give him a picture of what his expectation would be. When does he need to come back? When does he need to have funding, in place, just to give him a date to shoot for, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, I think at minimum, it sounds like the committee would probably need a little bit of time to sort of digest this whole idea. And maybe we earmark an item on the next agenda, whenever it is that we do meet, so that we can have a further discussion about it. But I do think it's worth talking about, certainly.
I think generally,
I don't know if I have anything more intelligent with the information that we have right now. Just getting sort of this $2 million estimate, like we gotta. It seems like a large mountain to climb, and you're just the guy to do it, Mark. I know, but why don't we say that? Let's take a minute to think about it together, and or separately. Sorry. And come back and talk about it on the next agenda.
What's going to happen, Tom, between now and then? I just don't know what's going to change. We need the money, and the time is a window. That's all I'm asking. What else you talk about?
And so I guess we can have Mark come back on the next agenda too, to talk about if there's any possibility that he's going to raise $2 million by December.
Is it possible that I can get those plans or something tangible and say, hey, this is what we're looking to do, and this is what we need? If right now, just say, give me $2 million before, I don't know, we're going to build a field. But if I can say, oh, geez, here's some, even if they're some of the plans that were just kind of briefed over that subject to whatever, but this is what we're going to get. This is where it's going to go. This is who it's going to affect. Something tangible that we can go around and say, okay, now get people behind it. If you get people
We can provide a site plan that shows the location of those fields and, just makes them quite brightly green so you can tell exactly what we're talking about. So you have a diagram, and then I believe Fontaine has worked up a draft estimate with some more information. So I'm sure Fontaine has something that's been kind of moving through that, as Ben says, hasn't made it to you, but those two things would certainly be a whole lot better than nothing. We don't have a detailed plan. We do have examples from our turf consultant of a cross section essentially that might be useful as well. So we can easily give you something like that if that's okay.
That'd be great. At least we can, have something to poke at. But I do want to say Fontaine's been very good to me. I've been a pain in the ass to David, and he gets me to people, but they. The one thing is, I argued to Zia, said we need a baseball team to play, a field to play on. There was the JV fields where the team played this year was supposed to be a dirt mound, and he ended up giving us a field this year. So I really appreciate everything they've done to bend and to make things happen for the town of East Long Meadow. So I never want to say anything negative about them, other than they could lower their price by $2 million. But no, they've been wonderful, great to deal with, especially with not an official, a pain in the ass like me. So I appreciate them very much.
Well, if there are no further questions, Mr. DeFranco, thank you very much for your time and your thoughts. And
I appreciate it. Appreciate your time.
And
thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
And who do I follow up with in order to get maybe this plan and this? I think if you share it with Coach McGee.
I think
Kevin.
Yeah, if you want to follow up, I think on the email when you sent your handout, that's a good group. Mr. Crucial, me, you could add Mr. Page to it. We're all around, and we can certainly connect with the design team and Skanska to get you information that you need.
I appreciate that.
Sure.
Well, thanks for all the time. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming,
Thanks,
Mark.
All right. Next item of business is OPM update and going into motions and possible approvals.
Thank you, Gordon. Yes, so just one item on our motions and approvals section today for the approval of change order number 2, which was sent out to the building committee last Friday. So it's comprised of 4 individual PCOs. Again, those are potential change orders that start with the project team here, work their way through to approval, and end up on what is known as a prime contract change order that you guys received last Friday. So I can quickly go through the 4 PCOs, just summarize real quick, and then we can field any questions if there are any. But just a reminder that our process here is that anything under $50,000 that as a change goes to Steve Crucial beforehand, before we have these meetings. Anything that's between $50,000 and $100,000 goes to the subcommittee group of Gordon, Greg, Ryan, and Steve, and Tom. Sorry, I was forgetting somebody. And then anything above that, the SBC approves. So once again, your approval today trumps all the other stuff. So we're looking for that. So change order number 2 in total was $237,110.79. It had PCO number 5, which was the storm drain design changes. That was $16,313.23. That item there, it was the cost associated with storm drain design changes that were necessary after the design team rerouted a portion of the drainage system. There's some additional work in there with regrading and adding insulation over a portion of the sanitary system. PCO number 7, the AVB keynote change. So this PCO was necessary because there was an incorrect keynote in the project drawings, which led the AVB contractor to carry an understated quantity of the necessary product for AVB, air vapor barrier, that we need. So the intended AVB product is more expensive material that requires additional handling and installation steps. So that resulted in that extra. So really just a drawing issue there. PCO number 9R1. So this is a pretty big one, $144,948.73. So these were various plumbing revisions. Ultimately, it's the cost to add the infrastructure that was missed on the plumbing drawings for an ice machine and washing machines. So the architectural drawings showed them, the plumbing drawings did not account for the infrastructure there. So that's that one. And then PCO 10, this is a miscellaneous plumbing revisions again. This is the cost associated with plumbing changes called for in a proposal request number 12, which was made some changes to the main water room, also increased plumbing changes in the gym, and added vents for the oil water separator. So Dory, I don't know if you have anything to add to any of those. I kind of just went through the description of each one, but if there's any questions or if the design team feels I left anything out, please feel free to add.
I don't, only if people have any questions about what an air vapor barrier is, or if that's clear or not, but happy to answer any questions you have on these.
Any of the members have questions? If you want to just unmute and ask a question, please do.
Dory, what's an air vapor barrier?
It's sort of like glorified shrink wrap, right? Imagine your building being wrapped on all sides. So we have 200,000 square feet of surface area, all of which has to be sealed so that water and air can't get through it. There's multiple products, sealants, layers of membrane that had to be coordinated. And the keynote is the thing on the drawings that connects the actual product to a list that's in the specifications. And if you get that keynote wrong or it's changed at the last minute, then you're pointing to the wrong product. So that's what occurred. And, you know, that's part of why we have what we call errors and omissions within, which is part of, you know, that contingency is if there's an error or omission in the documents and that's caught, it's not, it's a mistake, yes, but it's an anticipated reality that that's going to happen. And that was a drafting error essentially that didn't get picked up until it was bought out as Ben said, it was bought out on the wrong materials. We saw that, corrected it in an ASI, and then ended up with that change order cost.
Other questions?
I assume Steve has reviewed this. I know he's not on the call today.
I thought I saw his signature on the paperwork.
Yeah, Frank, he's reviewed he's seen everything to date. You know, he can't weigh in on the one that's 144,000. So that's why we had to package all of this into a formal package for you all to approve. But yeah, he's seen all the individual PCOs. That's correct.
Okay. I'm sure we would have heard from Steve if he had questions or concerns.
Oh, sorry, I should have added that as well. I don't believe that he has any his questions or concerns. Yeah. These have all been checked out. He just, like I said, can't sign off on that one big one. So we just package them all together.
Thank you.
And I will say, just to Dory's point, yes, these are, it's not a great time talking about change orders, but they are very much so common on every single project. And, you know, we're running about 0.3% right now on the total GMP. I'd say, you know, average anywhere from 3 to 5%. Right now, I'd say we're doing a pretty good job, the design team and the construction team in mitigating change orders as well as the owner. So just to give you guys a sense of where we're at, this isn't uncommon. It stinks approving more money when you have to cut things out that you really, really like, but this is part of the process.
Hey, Kathy, just give me a 5% mistake rate, okay?
I'll take a note of that.
There are no further questions. I'll take a motion to approve change order number 2.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, so Mr. Page made the motion to approve change order number 2, and Mr. Quimby seconded it. Any further discussion? Okay, I'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Labar?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Page?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Fenny?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Hill,
Yes.
Ms. Collins,
Yes.
and Mr. Quimby,
Yes.
and Mr. Christensen.
Yes.
All right. The yeses have it. So change order approved. Thank you. Next order of business is the update on the FFE process.
I think that's in my hands. I'll just catch you up a little bit that we had another subcommittee meeting on the 11th and reviewed the furniture list, which has essentially moved forward. It's been approved and is moving into preparation for documents for procurement. Actually, the next stage on furniture is actually the consultant working with the architect to select colors and fabrics, and then we will come to you in end of summer with a review of what that looks like, as well as the plans for that procurement, so that prior to going out for bid in October, you'll have seen that whole package. The other part of that is the equipment package, which is a little bit step behind, as we've talked about. We reviewed the budget on that and the instructional technology, but on the equipment, we still remain having gathered everyone's demands and hopes and aspirations with no filtering. We're obviously over our budget on that. And we discussed the reality that potentially contingency will affect that. We could use some of our contingency to cover that, but also that the process of bidding right now, we have very high, expected cost to that. The bid process actually will probably not come to that total value. So there's going to be some savings there. Nonetheless, the agreement with that group was that 600,000 is a bit too high to be over. We'd like to see that closer to 400,000. So we've kind of gone back, and the process is that the school is going to make some cuts out of that equipment list prior to us going into contracting in the fall. So we have these very lengthy lists that go from, slides in the bio room to, laser cutters, and that has to all get sorted out a little bit further. And DeFora will be supporting Frank and a lot of that, I think, responsibilities back into Frank's hands to look at that. And Frank has asked for a little bit of guidance in comparison to other schools to see which departments basically how your wish list compared to other schools, so we can get a sense of whether we're allocating too much money to one department or another in our equipment lists, to try and be sure that this is handled equitably. So that process is underway, and we'll hope to wrap that up really in the next couple of weeks, so that we can kind of have that number a little tighter, I think, is where we are.
All right. Thank you, Dory.
Sure.
Any questions on FF&E and the process? Okay. I don't know if we have any new business, other than it sounds like to schedule another school building committee meeting.
That's correct, Gordon. And actually, our team was talking about it before the meeting, and we don't have a need to meet in July. However, I don't know if the committee would like to meet. Sounds like I don't know if you want to discuss anything that Mr. DeFranco talked about today, if we need to deliberate on that a bit more as a committee.
I think you might run into problems in July for getting a quorum.
I agree.
Maybe if we start to look at early August, I know that on the school end of things, most of us will be back in getting into final preparation for the new school year. So early August or middle August might be a better frame to make sure that we have a quorum.
You want to put one on for August 14th, Gordon? I mean, our project team won't have a need to meet in July. So we're totally on board with that.
That's at the end of our retreat, Gordon.
Yeah. So can we look at maybe the next week?
Sure. 21st.
Or, I mean, I can do the 7th or the 21st.
August.
Either work for us. Yep. Of August.
Is that just before school starts?
Anybody have any preference in the committee members earlier in August or the third week August?
Earlier is better for me. I'm going to be at a PD on the 21st.
Earlier is better for me too.
How's the 7th looking for people. Oh, wait, I can't do the 7th. Sorry. I mean, you don't necessarily need me for a quorum, so it's up to you. I want to make sure we have enough people here to discuss the direction that the committee's taking.
Worst case scenario, I can do the 21st and come in virtually.
Okay. Tom, does the virtual aspect work for you, or are you out?
I'm out.
Okay. How about others? Does it look like?
We're talking the 7th.
No, we're talking 21st now.
We jumped ahead there.
We did. 21st, you're here because we have new staff the next day.
I mean, it should be fine. Obviously, that's just an extremely busy time for all of us. Getting ready for.
How about the 28th, guys? I mean, I don't think that we're going to have worse, Frank.
That, yeah, I would honestly that move the conversation to earlier in August if there's a time.
Yeah, if the
Anything in
7th,
the first 15 days would probably be better.
what's the 5th of August look like for people? I know it's a Tuesday, but would that work for people? Works for Greg.
I'm good.
Works for
I'm
Kathy. Anybody else?
Not that you would ever go to 6 o'clock, but just the only schedule on Zoom would be that 6 o'clock is planning board.
Okay. I mean, we could, if people are able to do early in the afternoon, we could always schedule it at like 2.
If we go 3 to 6, I quit.
Yeah, me too.
Setup wise, I would definitely need it to be done by 5.
Those were the early meetings. We used to go 3 to 6. We're much faster now.
Yeah.
Okay, 3 o'clock on the 5th it is.
3 o'clock on the 5th. Okay, we'll do it. Thank you. All right, I think that's the only new business we have, so I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Gordon, can I just ask Ryan a question real quick?
Sure.
Thank you. Hey, Ryan, for putting my parade marshal hat on, any thoughts on using the back access road the day of the parade with the turnaround here by central office to go line up in? Would we need that access? Would that help us?
Already got it.
Oh, move to adjourn.
It's been fantastic for that.
Are we going to use it, Ryan? Are you going to do that?
Yeah, that's
cool.
That's
Sweet.
great.
Awesome.
All right, so we have a parade route. Thank you. That was other new business. And we have a motion to adjourn from Mr. Thompson. Any seconds?
Second.
Kathy stole it.
All right.
Wow.
Nice job, Kathy.
Quickly going through the roster here, Ms. Labar.
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Page?
Yep.
I'm a yes. Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Okay. Who am I missing? Mr. Penny?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Quimby?
Yep.
Mr. Christensen?
Yes, please.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Enjoy.